Good morning, everyone. When we finished last evening, we were on the second reading of the Land Transport Clean Vehicle Standards Amendment Bill number 2, call number 9. Carlos Cheung.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure it was too late last night for the member on the other side, but clearly they are still living in a dream, or perhaps in their own la-la land. The members on the other side try to link falling EV demand to the repeal of the clean car discount. Yet, almost every submitter confirmed that that's not what's driving the market. It is driven by the broader market factors, not the policy change. But one thing is certain. The vehicle importers who make submissions all agree that the previous standard set by the foremost government were unrealistic and impractical. And this is why we're here, to clean up that mess. I commend this bill to the House.
Good to see the caffeine levels have hit in this early in the morning. Helen White.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Mr. Speaker. I was on the Transport and Infrastructure Select Committee when the legislation came through that both provided a discount, an incentive for people to buy electric vehicles and brought in standards. And one of the things that we heard was this, we heard a lot of an outcry I was used to hearing in my previous job, where people would go, this can't possibly happen, this won't work, this is the result, we're going to have this crisis, etc. None of which actually happened. What we got was things like vehicles that were electric go down. One went down $20,000, those electric vehicles, because there was a market to meet, and that was a van, and it was something that wasn't on the market, and so it actually, the dealers reduced the prices of those, and we got a whole lot more electric vehicles in the country than we had before. So there was a lot of choice, and the Honourable Julianne Genter talked about that there were things like build your own electric vehicles, which just weren't here, and suddenly they were here. That's the value of government taking leadership, is we can create a market, we can create an appetite. And I look at the report that was done on this bill, and it says, under other matters considered, we heard from the motor vehicle industry, particularly the new vehicle industry, that settings in the clean vehicle standards regime are fundamentally and structurally misaligned with the vehicle fleet that New Zealanders wish to purchase. That's a really interesting comment. It's from a lobby group, and it's talking about what New Zealanders wish to purchase. Well, we live in a world where we actually can lead that desire. And when I think about my electorate of Mt Albert, which is actually very similar to Carlos's, in fact, Carlos Cheung's electorate and mine will actually lose a bit of ground to each other in the next boundary change. And I think about those people who are living in somewhere like Wesley, which is an area that we share in that way. And I think about the way that the motorway goes right next to the people in that area and it dips. They're being impacted by the emissions from those very vehicles. Their kids will die as a result. I'm not overstating this, and I need to be able to make this point, Mr. Speaker. The children in that area will die at a greater rate because of the emissions from those utes that Grant McCallum just talked about. Because those, and before you cry across that house, that's actually good research on that. People die because of pollution in cities from cars. And actually, when you remove a whole lot of petrol vehicles and diesel vehicles from the fleet, you actually impact on the well-being and the health of the children in the very electorates that you come from. Now, it might not be such a problem from Grant McCallum, who comes from an area where there aren't a lot of people, and so those emissions aren't such a problem because there's a spread of people. But in intensified cities, and remember that Carlos Cheung and my area, they're going to take the majority of new people coming to Auckland because we're building in a different way and we're building more intensely. And as we do that, it's incredibly important that for the sake of Carlos Cheung's children, for the sake of hopefully my grandchildren, that we clean up the air.
Point of order, Carlos
Mr.
Cheung.
Chair, I accept that the other member can attack me, but I don't think she should be using my children as an example in the speech.
Sit down, Mr. Cheung.
Oh, this family.
Mr. Cheung, this is a robust discussion, and I've heard you actually being quite vocal in it. Give and take, and just a little bit of sensitivity. Or a little bit less sensitivity. Carry on, Ms. White. Sorry, Mr. Cheung, this is a frivolous interjection, and I'm treating it as such. Particularly for someone who has been actually making some considerable noise across the House.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Mark McCallum.
I do take your point, Mr. Speaker, but there is a long-held convention in the House that we do not introduce our families and family members into the debate.
Yeah, well, I took it as a broad enough mention, but the member, there's obviously been some. Just carry on with your speech and be aware of the sensitivities of the House.
Absolutely, I will. My point was about the broader situation in both our electorates. We have children growing up in an environment where we know that children in this country in particular get things like asthma. We know we have higher rates than most places in the world.